everybody. Welcome into Nashville, Tennessee. This is Nissan Stadium, home of the Tennessee Titans. I am Cory Curtis, and this program is The Draft in Music City, and this should be the biggest show of the week because it is Draft Day. Draft Day is here in 7 hours. Commissioner Roger Goodell takes the screen and officially puts the who's on the clock? Arizona. Arizona's on the clock. I was going to say Tampa, but they're not on the clock. We're going to talk about Tampa. I'm your draft expert, right? Arizona is on the clock where they are expected to take Kyler Murray first overall. But I'm not alone. From Tampa, J.B. Biunno is here as well. He's been with us all week long. And J.B., the big day is here.
The big day is here. You got to imagine if you're Kyler Murray, Nick Bosa, Queen Williams, or really any prospect, you're just getting really excited right about now. We are going to be talking about so many teams in our team focus segments. We got Titans, we got Bucks, my Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we got the Buffalo Bills and the Seattle Seahawks, all coming up on this show. Cory?
Yep, and the hype has been real leading up to this draft, and we see it on the street right now in Nashville. The atmosphere is electric. We see jerseys from every team in the league right now. There you see Lower Broad, you see the crowd already gathering in front of that massive stage that they've built just along the Cumberland River there. It's going to be a wild day there. There will be some beverages consumed as this day goes along, and by the time 7 o'clock gets here, it's going to be absolutely on tilt.
I was down there last night, and believe me, I think the beverages have been being consumed for some time, you guys. I think it's going to be a big party here on Broadway later on tonight. It's already a party. Look at it.
Expecting over 100,000 here. And I'll tell you what, every team's going to have fans represented, but when the Titans pick at number 19, I'm very interested to see who they take number 1 and what that ovation is going to be like number 2. It should be something absolutely special. Now, our first guest today, we're going to have 3. Eddie George, the Titan great, will be here. Alan Bell from 24/7 Sports is scheduled to be here as well. And then there's this guy. His name is Will Compton, the pride of Nebraska. An undrafted player who just earned it every step of the way. 5 years with the Washington Redskins, last year with the Tennessee Titans. It's great to see you, man.
Oh, it's great to be here. I'm excited you guys brought me on. I said it earlier, I got frisked several times to get here. But I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share my non-expert opinion on the draft and just chop it up with you guys.
Will, you were an undrafted player out of Nebraska. What was that draft day experience like for you? Were you expecting to go or just waiting to see when it was over?
No, there was a part of me that expected to go. I had a really good pro day. I didn't go to the combine. I wasn't a combine guy. But like I said, I had a really good pro day. I had a lot of good feedback. I took like one visit, and then a lot of teams were calling, and I had a couple in-house interviews at Nebraska. But I knew I was a late-round free agent guy, and I knew it was kind of, if you get in the later round, 6 or 7, it's almost better to be undrafted.
Because you can pick your spot.
Right, so I didn't have too much pressure on myself. It happens fast, man. When the draft ended, I was on the Redskins within a couple minutes. So it takes you by surprise. I kind of knew where I might be, so I didn't have too much pressure on myself.
But as a football player, you have seen this event for years, and to have it in the town you call home right now is pretty electric.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Honestly, I'm excited for Nashville. I feel like it's a big measuring stick for opportunities in the future with events coming here and things of that nature. So I'm really rooting for Nashville. I feel like everyone, you feel the energy. You felt it all week long, and I'm glad it's finally here.
Well, J.B., you are all sorts of fired up about this thing as well, and man, who goes number 1? That
is today's featured topic, and I want to get right into it, starting with the Arizona Cardinals. So I will pose the question like I'm the host of this show. I'm going to pose the question to you two being the draft experts. All right, Will, can you be
We're in trouble. I didn't even know who was picking first a minute ago.
So the question, who should go number 1 overall to the Cardinals, and is it all just a moot point at this point? I mean, is it going to be Kyler Murray?
You want to go first there?
I'll let you take it.
If I'm the Arizona Cardinals, who just traded up last year to get Josh Rosen, I'm looking to, number 1, deal that pick because they need more than one player.
Yes.
So, number 1, I would trade down to the Raiders, who I think would take Kyler Murray first overall.
Wouldn't they have traded down by now?
No. No, because you're fielding calls. You're trying to get the best offer that you can.
I've actually seen the Redskins be in big talks with trading up, so I know what happens like the day of.
And the question is, are they in talks to trade up for Kyler, or are they in talks to trade up for Dwayne Haskins, Daniel Jones,
there's all,
Drew Lock? There's all those questions because each one of them costs more. So I think in the end, Kyler Murray will go first overall. It just depends on which team he goes to, whether it be Arizona, Oakland, or some surprise team that's out there. Now, as for who goes second, there's a premium on hitting the quarterback. We've had a number of people on this show this week who've all said the same things. Quinnen Williams is the best player in this draft. But Nick Bosa is a 10-sack-a-year guy, and there's a premium on hitting the quarterback, so I think he will go number 2 and should go number 2.
I like the kid from Bama a lot at number 2.
Yeah.
I was telling you earlier, the last 2 first-round picks, D tackles out of Bama, they've been panning out well.
Jonathan Allen.
Yeah, and Jonathan Allen. And what was the kid from last year? Do you remember his name?
You put me on the spot.
I'm putting you on the spot too much.
Yeah.
But no, you can never go wrong building your interior, whether that's on the offensive side or defensive side. I like the kid from Bama a lot. So that's where my guess would be at number 2. Quarterback spot, you have no idea. I'm sure Kyle Murray, or was it Kyler?
Kyler.
See, look at that. That's my non-expert opinion.
Yeah, Kyler Murray.
I think he'll go number 1. I think there'll be a lot of drama tonight on trading and
Yep.
picks going around. So, I'm excited to see.
Yeah, and so, look, whether it's 2 or 3, I think we agree Nick Bosa, Quinnen Williams are probably there. There's some talk that Ed Oliver sneaks his way up in there. Josh Allen's a guy who had 17 sacks at Kentucky last year, so there's talk about him. And then there's the chance that the Wild West show breaks out and everybody starts trading up to get quarterbacks, and all of a sudden Drew Lock from Missouri is a top 3 pick. I mean, these things are all things that really could happen. You can never have enough good interior offensive and defensive linemen, and I think that's where the strength of this draft is I've heard it said it's a big man's draft.
Yeah, for sure.
And big man, you can have lots of sexy, attractive pieces on the outside. They don't go anywhere without those big guys.
Yeah, those guys up front, they mean that's where the snap starts, is up front, is at the interior. So again, you can never go wrong with that. I feel like teams, and the speculation out there, teams have been doing a really good job of keeping a lot of stuff in-house, so you really don't know what's going to happen. This is one of the more mystery drafts as far as where we think guys are going to go that there's been in recent years. So it's going to be awesome. I think there's going to be a lot of trades going down, a lot of whoa moments, and it'll be real cool to see.
Well, JB, we do have a soundbite from Kyler Murray about the possibility of going number 1, what that means. Let's take a listen to Kyler Murray.
I love the game. To be the number 1 pick would be, that's a kid's dream come true. So, if my name was called number 1, that would, I'd be ready to go for sure. I've never been the biggest guy on the field. I'm always the smallest guy on the field. And I've said it multiple times. I feel like I'm the most impactful guy on the field and the best player on the field all the time. So, that's just the confidence that, I have in myself.
Well, while Kyler was talking there, Will's dropping bombs on me. You saw Kyler Murray in town yesterday.
Yeah, I went to go have lunch with my agent and picked him up at the JW and got to see some of them cats outside. Kyler Murray's one of them.
He's holding out on us. Will's holding out on us. You got to lead with that next time.
No, I need to get subscribers. I need to capitalize on that.
Were you standing next to him or sitting next to him?
No, I pulled up.
You weren't sizing him up?
No, not at all. I was pulling up, my F-150, jacked up a couple inches. But no, I got to see him, and he's a shorter guy, but again, he's a winner. He's an athlete. He's a playmaker. So I think any team's going to be lucky to have him.
Well, my concern is this: the history of running quarterbacks in the National Football League, and this guy rushed for 1,000 yards last year at Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. The history of those guys holding up is not the greatest. Russell Wilson's done it better than anybody, and he's a similar size, really, 5'10". But I think Russell does an exceptional job of getting out of bounds and avoiding contact and getting down. I think there's a lot of quarterbacks who could learn from him. I think Kyler Murray will certainly be one who could watch some Russell Wilson tape.
And is Kyler Murray in this position because of Baker Mayfield? Has Baker Mayfield kind of proven that in 2019 that prototypical 5'10" quarterback, or that shorter quarterback,
Baker's about
can be
6'1".
successful? I mean, he's a little bit taller, but just enough in that range where maybe that Oklahoma quarterback could be number 1 worthy. Does that?
Well, look, I think of the measurables, height is taking a hit this year because you've got Kyler Murray at 5'9", 5'10", and then you've got 2 inside linebackers in Devin Bush and Devin White, and Devin White is fun to watch.
Yes.
Neither of those guys are 6 feet tall, and that has not impacted their draft status whatsoever. And it used to be that 6 foot marker was kind of a death nail for you. If you couldn't reach it, it would drop your draft status. But it seems like watching the tape and watching guys be able to make plays is starting to take on a little bit more importance, as it probably should.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to making plays. I think it means more for a quarterback, seeing over the line, getting pass rushes in your face, these monstrous dudes coming after you, compared to more of a linebacker where you see these guys run and tackle and make plays on the ball, move their hips around a lot. I really like those guys out of they're out of Michigan and LSU, right?
Yeah, Michigan.
The kid out of LSU is a stud.
Yeah, I mean, 123 tackles last year.
Yeah, I mean that. Them not being 6 foot's not really going to hurt them if they're dogs on the inside, running and chasing and having that speed to cover in this league because it's coming into more of a coverage league. There's a difference in measuring height for a linebacker as it is, I think, compared to a quarterback.
Do we still have that Devin White soundbite, JB?
Let me see. I'm checking right. Yes.
Devin White at the Combine was asked about his coverage skills, and I love the superior confidence that oozed from Devin White.
A big fall in the NFL is linebackers not being so athletic, and nowadays tight ends are getting more athletic and they are able to be used more versatile in the offensive schemes. But I'm a guy who can play inside, or if we having trouble with a tight end, in our zone coverage, catching a lot of balls, you can stick Devin White on him and he'll go stop him. So, I mean, that's very important. I pride myself on speed because, God-given ability, I was fast. So, I mean, it was nothing I had to do but just play hard. And I got a high motor. And the minute I step on the field to the minute that the clock says 0, 0, 0, you're going to get 140% out of me.
He refers to himself in the third person there. I don't know if you
That's
heard that.
fantastic.
Devin White, he's oozing confidence.
He says when you need somebody to cover a tight end, you put Devin White on him.
No, that confidence is awesome. I think he's gonna have a good career.
How we talk about how pass rushers can transform a defense. How about a guy who can go sideline to sideline from the middle and shut everything down?
Yeah, there's no question that those guys are big-time playmakers in your defense. It's real important that you have cats in front of them too to keep them free.
Well,
to
I mean,
run
like
and
when
make
you were with the
plays.
Redskins and they brought in Jonathan Allen.
Absolutely, that stuff matters because linebackers you can find. You can find run and hit guys all over the place, off the street, even when you're in the middle of the season. Those guys do have a canny ability to make plays, so you'll see them go in the early round, first and second round. But there's more of a necessity to have those guys up front to protect them to run and hit all the time. But those instincts and coverage ability, they're coming at a premium now in this league, especially on third down and with all these scat backs and them being receiving threats now.
And we talk about Devin White. I think he could go as high as 5 to the Tampa Bay Bucks, who are one of the teams we're going to break down in a little bit. They just lost Quan Alexander.
Yeah, and I love that because one of my good buddies is Levante David, and that kid, I love Levante, and so they would complement each other well.
They cover the field.
And cover the field well, yes.
All right. So, and then there's the possibility of the quarterbacks also entering the fray there. Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State, all he did was throw 50 touchdown passes last year. And Drew Lock from Missouri, who's, he's kind of that wild card guy. He's athletic with a strong arm, but will take some chances. I think that's a natural fit for John Elway and the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, you never know what teams are going to do. It's hard to predict where all these quarterbacks are going to go. You have this idea of the athletic quarterback taking a few more chances. It kind of stinks that you have the quarterbacks in the past who have created this idea of more injury prone, taking more chances. Let's watch Russell Wilson. Unfortunately, you have Baker Mayfield, who's going to be a hell of a player. And I think these other guys in this year's draft, they're their own player. I think they're going to do great things as well.
Well, it all starts to unveil itself tonight at 7 o'clock. I think it's going to get wild. That's just my prediction. I think with quarterback being a need for so many teams still, which it is every year, I think it's going to get wild because everybody wants to hit the next Pat Mahomes now.
No, there's no doubt about that. I'm excited. We have the draft, Avengers Endgame coming out, in Game of Thrones.
Man.
I'm psyched for the weekend.
And
I don't know if you watch
great.
it.
I
but
watch
I'm
Game
psyched
of
for the
Thrones.
weekend.
I'm all about the Avengers. I've got my daughter watching Thor Ragnarok. She's 6 years old, and that's all she wants to watch.
That's awesome.
Which is
Let's
absolutely
go.
fantastic.
I love it.
Yep, and I'm on Game of Thrones as well. The only thing that would make it better is if Will Compton got a new contract with the Tennessee Titans by this weekend. Speaking of the Titans, they are our first draft analysis coming up. All right, the Tennessee Titans went 9-7 for the third year in a row last season. They have picks number 19 overall in the first round. Then they've got a pick in the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth. They've lost several players in the offseason. Both starting guards from last year are gone. That's Quentin Spain and Josh Klein. Benny Logan, the nose tackle, is also gone. Linebackers Derek Morgan and Brian Arakpo. They were the linchpin on the outside for about 4 years. They are gone. And probably most important, Will Compton is not under contract with the Tennessee Titans. So they've got some holes to fill. They've filled some already in free agency, bringing in left guard Roger Saffold to a massive contract from the Los Angeles Rams. Wide receiver Adam Humphries is a nice get from the Tampa Bay Bucks. They actually outbid the New England Patriots to get him. Quarterback Ryan Tannehill, they acquired in a trade with Miami to come back up Marcus Mariota. And then they brought in Cameron Wake, all 37 years old of him, to come in and rush the passer. He has been an ageless wonder. Needs for the Titans are considered to be interior offensive line for the obvious reason I gave you. 2 guys are gone. Edge rushers, and then looking to upgrade on the interior defensive line, getting more pressure on the quarterback. Will, you played for this team last year. How close are the Tennessee Titans to going from good to great?
The Titans are very close from going good to great. They have a great culture, great leadership. Coach Rabel and John Robinson, they've done great jobs within the building. Rallying these guys, rallying all of us. I can't speak enough on the culture that they've been creating. I think we're a few pieces away from being great and making a heck of a playoff run this year.
You see the banner there, edge or interior line. That interior line goes for the offensive or the defensive side. When I look at if you want to make a bang with your football team, if you want to make the largest leap forward, I think the potential to do that is on the edge, the guy who can sack the quarterback, the guy who can separate the quarterback from the football or create bad throws. But you can never have enough good guys on the inside. What do you think?
Yeah, it's tough because, again, the line of scrimmage is where it all starts. I think edge, you look at the guys we lost last year in Rack and Derek Morgan, 2 great leadership guys.
Durable players.
Yeah, very durable players. You can count on them all the time. You're going to have to fill those voids. They did with bringing in Wake this offseason. I think more so than being a great pass rusher, I'm sure he's going to bring a lot of leadership to the locker room, which you need when you have holes like that. And then you're very young on the edge. So I would think more of an edge, pass rush guy. But again, you can never go wrong building the interior of your line of scrimmage. You're in a good spot picking out of those 2.
And if the Titans are going to go with an edge, the names I think you have to look for are Cleveland Farrell, number 99 from Clemson. You've also got to look for the possibility that Montez Sweat, who you see right there, who had a freakish NFL combine, but also was revealed to have a heart condition. How severe, we don't know, but we have heard that scared some teams from putting him on the board. So there is the chance that he slides to 19. Brian Burns is another player from Florida State who's got the ability to be there at 19 and also play that edge, 6'5", 250, 10 sacks last season. He's here in Music City for the draft right now. And actually, I caught up with Brian yesterday on this field, and we talked about possibly him going number 19 to the Tennessee Titans.
Fit in good. I mean, there's another guy on that team, Harold Landry, I used to look up to. I mean, not look up to, but I used to watch. And he seems like he's coming along pretty well, so I feel like I can excel on this team.
Mike Vrabel's got a history of working well. He's the head coach, but he works one-on-one with guys. And he has some good ones in Houston, too.
Yeah.
J.B. I mean, I would think that's got to be attractive.
Yeah, most definitely, especially his background. He kind of played that position, so just knowing that, and I actually got to sit down and talk to him. He's a cool guy, so I really like that.
Will, he is a lean 6'5", 250. I know Dean Pease, the defensive coordinator of the Titans, likes him big, likes him to be able to set the edge. He's got plenty of room to put on 15 pounds. But you just can't have enough guys who hit the quarterback. And the other thing I like for any of these guys who get drafted on the edge is the head coach. You can't have a better head coach to get drafted by and then tutored by one-on-one. You've seen it firsthand.
No question. Vrabel likes to mix it up with everybody, especially the outside backers, the edge guys. when you have those big, lengthy guys who can set the edge and also rush the passer, I know it's just as important to set the edge and play in the run game as it is to just go get the passer. So I know they're doing their homework, they're doing their due diligence on everything. They definitely like that mold of guys, even though we have Harold, who is smaller, but that dude can get after the pass rusher as well, after the quarterback as well. So you're in a good spot picking out of all these edge rushers. You got a lot of height, you got a lot of length, you got a lot of size and frame to put on more weight to be sturdier in the run game too.
If we talk about the interior defensive line, the guy that I circle for the Titans, who I think is a natural fit because of character and his ability to get penetration, is Christian Wilkins from Clemson. The guy was the captain of their defense. I think culturally he fits the locker room you were in last year really, really well. 45 career tackles for loss. He's a massive man, and you pair him up with Jarrell Casey, and even if he only gets 5-6 sacks, the two of those guys and their penetration, can't they open things up for everybody else to put up some pretty prolific numbers?
Oh, absolutely. When you command double teams and then you have another guy to complement you that can get after the quarterback as well and be stout in the run game, again, you have to win on first and second down and earn the right to rush the passer on third, and they always make that very known to everybody. So having a guy to complement Jarrell in that room as a whole, I think would be huge for the Titans. Again, I can't speak enough on how important it is to stop the run on first and second. These guys that we talk about, setting the edge, getting their hands on O-linemen, it's imperative when then beginning to speak about getting after the quarterback.
All right, now there's also the possibility, there are infinite possibilities for the Tennessee Titans. If you look at the draft, in the mock drafts, tight end is a position that comes up over and over again, because I think everybody just looks at the Delaney Walker and the 34 years old. I don't think they quite understand the mutant that Delaney Walker is. He could be an Avenger, couldn't he?
Yeah, he's. I say it all the time and joke about it, but he's my favorite player. I love Delaney Walker. The dude is a true professional. He's always working on. He's always doing body work. He's always doing maintenance work. He's doing all these things that to not have that unfortunate injury like he had last year. But the dude is a true pro. I believe in Delaney 100%. Hopefully we have him healthy all year long. That'll be a big help. But yes, tight end is a need as well for the Titans.
Well, they've also got Jonnu Smith, who's also coming off of an injury, but Luke Stocker is no longer with the team. And when you run a lot of two tight end sets, that's not too bad. And you see Noah Fant.
Hang on now, don't sleep on my boy Ferk. Don't sleep on old Ferksker.
Oh, I love Ferksker. Yeah. Are you kidding me? But you guys have room to carry four.
Yeah, no doubt.
And he's a pass-catching tight end as well. As Noah Fant, you just saw from Iowa, is a talented pass-catching tight end. He can shield guys in the running game, but he's a run-after-catch tight end. He's kind of a Delaney Walker kind of guy. And if you could put two of those guys on the field, and I think we would call Jonnu Smith something similar to that as well. But the guy that I think is interesting for them, if he's there, is T.J. Hawkinson, who's Noah Fant's teammate. Because Hawkinson is hands down the most devastating blocker at tight end in this draft. And when you talk about what the Titans want to do, and it looks like they want to emphasize Derrick Henry more. And then what do they also want to do? They want to keep Marcus Mariota healthy. If you can keep him in, and the reports on him say can handle defensive ends one-on-one, that's really important for this football team, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very important. It's because he can also catch the ball as well, like you were saying, after he catches, what he does after he catches the ball. It's important because when you have certain tight ends in the game, you can break down personnel sometimes by, let's say, 11 personnel, for instance. Let's say you have one tight end in the game, and you have more of a pass catcher. You're more prone to know that the offense is about to pass the ball.
Yeah.
Compared to when you put like Luke Stocker or a bigger tight end, you're more prone to run the ball.
But you put Delaney Walker and T.J. Hawkinson
out
there.
When you have guys like that and you don't know what's going to happen, you can have him in to protect as an extra pass protector. He can get out and run routes. He's got length to get over backers, over safeties that cover him one-on-one. It's very important to have that piece of a puzzle in a tight end.
Yeah, it makes you more multiple, makes you more versatile. I know there were concerns last year that when Derrick Henry was on the field or Deion Lewis was on the field, it was going to give away plays. Like Derrick, you were going to run. If Deion was on the field, you were going to throw the football. And so the more you can disguise what you're doing, the better. And obviously, TJ does that really well.
Absolutely, I agree.
Offensive line, when you lose both interior guards, you've got a hole to fill. Now, Roger Saffold obviously fills one of them. But, there's a couple of guys that can do some things for him. Garrett Bradbury's a center from North Carolina State. I view him as one of the safest picks in the draft. He could be a plug-and-play 8, 9, 10-year guy. And you could either play him at guard and leave Ben Jones at center, or you could put him at center and move Ben Jones over to right guard. I think you've got some versatility there with a pick like that.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on, what direction they want to go in the draft, obviously. You have a safe pick like a center, but if you get a true guard in there, a true, mauler, somebody who can pass pro, somebody that they're going to want to teach, get their hands on them, teach them a lot of in-house technique. That's not as much as my expertise in knowing which guards are in this draft. But, again, you can never go wrong building your line of scrimmage, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know how much carryover there is playing center to guard. I know there's a learning curve with all that stuff. So, again, I'm sure everybody's doing their homework.
I think Ben played guard for you a game last year. I think it when you played the Chargers in London? Was that and didn't?
I didn't travel to that game.
I think
my head was in the.
Corey Levin played center for you that day.
Oh yeah, because there were injuries.
Yeah,
that game,
and I think Ben played guard.
Right, but that's not necessarily always what you want to happen is having to move your center over and bring somebody in.
But if he's got the whole off season, to adjust, then you've got some time to make it happen. Another name to look out for on that offensive line front is Jonah Williams from Alabama. He's a hot name right now. Some have linked him to the Giants as high as 6. And the guy 43 starts at Alabama. He's projected as a left tackle, but the book on him is he can play every position on the offensive line. And the reason I say that's valuable for the Tennessee Titans is you could plug him in at right guard as a rookie. And look, we still don't know what's going to happen with Jack Conklin after his contract is up. And if it doesn't work out with Jack long term, you can slide him out to right tackle with your buddy from the Wolfpack, Taylor Lewan, anchoring down the left side. He gives you some versatility at number 19.
And somebody's name that comes to mind is Brandon Scherf from the Redskins. He was drafted out of Iowa as a tackle, and they moved him to guard, and now he's a Pro Bowl guard. You get guys like that who can play across the whole line of scrimmage. I mean, it's hard to find those guys, and that's a name that sticks out for me to compare to.
So the Titans have some options, and I think depending on where they go in round 1, they could I'll throw out the guy that I think can really create some shock scenarios for them, and that's Hollywood Brown from Oklahoma. He's a speedy wide receiver who I think could give the Titans offense something that it has not had in years. It could make Corey Davis better. It could make Delaney Walker better. It could be Adam Humphries better. I mean, this guy's got legitimate 4.28, 4.33 speed. You've seen this offense. You practiced against it every day. You didn't have to practice that. How big of a shock could that be for the Titans offense?
It just opens up so many more things. Like, again, you were talking earlier about Derrick Henry being in the backfield versus Dion in the backfield, knowing things that are coming. When you have somebody who can take the top off like that,
every play
where a safety has to come over top of him, it opens up the middle, it opens up the run game more. So it would be awesome to have a piece like that. I know he brings like 4.2. You're not gonna find that. You can't train that. It's something that somebody just has. So he'd be a very valuable piece.
And I think if the Titans don't go wide receiver, which I don't think most of us expect them to do in the first round, there are going to be some guys there in round 2. It's just a matter of how far they slide, whether they be N'Keal Harry or Akeem Butler from Iowa State. Parrish, I'm forgetting his name. I picked Parrish Wilcox. There are guys there to be had in the second round to supplement. Because in this offseason, it has appeared John Robinson and the Titans have been all in on trying to give Marcus Mariota the weapons he needs to succeed and to stay healthy.
Absolutely, yeah. And they're doing a good job of that. And they have all their homework done. They have, they're preparing all the way up until tonight. I think if you're not going to get, a playmaker, somebody that changes the game on offense, like TJ, the tight end out of Iowa, or Brown out of Oklahoma, you're going to go with, the line of scrimmage, whether that be on the edge or in the interior on offense or a D tackle. So that's where I would see them going. I'm not in the room, but I'm excited to see what happens.
I like the input, Will. Thank you very much. And most important, we got to get John Robinson to get you back under contract.
Hey, one thing they do need, and that's a 29-year-old linebacker that brings great camaraderie, great every intangible you can have, and just a baller, man.
If people want to follow you on social media, how do they do it?
_Will Compton on Instagram and Twitter.
All right.
That's where you can find me.
All right. Thanks, Will. Good luck to you.
Thanks
Appreciate
for having
you
me,
being here. All right, JB, who we got next? We're going to go to your town, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as we welcome in Alan Bell from 24/7 Sports. He's next on deck.
Yeah, it's time for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, everybody. Let's talk about the Bucs. Everybody on WFLA.com, the News Channel 8 app, welcome. It's time to talk about where the Bucs might go with that number 5 overall pick. There are a lot of different ways they could go, but really what we're hearing on the ground here in Nashville is it's looking like it's going to be either linebacker or defensive line. There are a few names that we're going to be talking about, but the name I want to start with, we were just talking about him.
Will Compton? He's a middle linebacker.
Hey, Will Compton would be a great fit in Tampa Bay, but how about LSU linebacker Devin White? Corey, this is the guy that just about in every mock draft the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is selecting.
You know, I've got family down that way, and they were excited about asking me about Josh Jacobs, the running back from Alabama, and I immediately shot it down. I said they need to draft Devin White from LSU. He is a sideline-to-sideline football player. You know, you pair him with what they've already got down there, and they've got 2 tackling machines. Quan Alexander just left for San Francisco, so I think Devin White is a slam dunk. But listen, there's going to be another really good football player there. You know, there could be an Ed Oliver on the board. There could potentially be a Josh Allen on the board. One of those guys is going to be there, and they just have to decide which way they want to go.
Yeah, the other names that we're hearing about with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, everybody, Ed Oliver, Josh Allen, and then how about the prayer? Can we get a little bit of a Hail Mary going here? How about the big guy from the University of Alabama, Queen Williams? If he were to fall to number 5, which is probably a pipe dream, you got to think that Bruce Arians, Jason Light are going to be just salivating at the opportunity to plug him in that hole. There's uncertainty on the D-line with Gerald McCoy right now, and this could be a defensive unifier for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So likely not going to happen, Bucs fans, but if we can dream, Queen Williams would be there at 5.
Well, I'm going to give you some hope, JB. I mean, there's a real possibility somebody else trades into the top 5 to get a quarterback, and if they do that, then there's the possibility that a guy like Quinn Williams does drop to the Bucs at 5. We want to bring in Alan Bell from 24/7 Sports. Alan, what are you hearing on the trade front? Do you think there's a possibility we get a second quarterback in the top 5 outside of Kyler Murray?
I think there's going to be. You know, first off, appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh, thanks for being here, man.
And you're right. You know, all signs point to the Washington Redskins, you know, of them moving up, you know, to get a quarterback. But it's the NFL draft. I mean, you never know. You can never count out even a New England Patriots. We all know that Bill Belichick, you know, is not afraid to go after not only any trade but any position, you know, that he sees fit. Not saying it's going to happen.
Would he have to get Tom Brady's permission?
Well, you know, that's a good question, right? But yeah, you know, everything says the Washington Redskins, and if it happens, you know, it's going to throw everything off. And, you know, you were just talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You know, they're kind of in a little bit of wait and see of who's taking ahead. Yeah. Is it a Devin White? Is it a Quinnen Williams? So, you know, that could have an effect on their first-round pick as well.
Now, Alan, and we are going to talk about the Bucs here. So, yeah. but I've got it. You brought up the Redskins because when you hear Daniel Snyder has taken over their first pick,
yep,
that there are 31 other teams in the league who are just grabbing onto the side of the deck because they know things are about to shake up.
Oh, they know exactly because, you know, if you look at, you know, his history, I think the last time was the Robert Griffin trade, you know, and he ended up trading, I think, 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick, something around there.
Yeah.
And when Daniel Snyder gets involved, things happen. I'm not going to say that they're good things that happen, but, you know, things happen, right? And, you know, especially with it being a top 5 pick, with it being, you know, so high, there's an effect on essentially every single team. I mean, even look at, you know, say the Titans. If, you know, these quarterbacks start going quick, how could that change their picks later on? Yeah, exactly. You know, that's how every team's going to look at it. So, you know, there's a lot of things that could happen. But, yeah, you know, all reports look like Daniel Jones is their guy.
All right, well, the Bucs went 5-11 last year, 4th in the AFC South. They had a little bit of Fitzmagic for a couple of weeks, somehow beat the New Orleans Saints. But now they got a new coach in Bruce Arians, who everybody thinks a real lot of. And the big question is...
Don't forget about Todd Bowles as defensive coordinator.
Yeah, another highly respected guy. But, you know, the big question is, can the Arians-Winston marriage work? Can he salvage Jameis Winston at quarterback, or are they going to have to turn the page down the line? Look, they've made a lot of additions to this team, and they're going to make a bunch more in the draft. They got pick number 5 overall. They also pick in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. They've added running back Andre Ellington, wide receiver Brashard Perriman, cornerback Devontae Harris, linebacker Shaquille Barrett, and they've also added a backup quarterback, a guy we know, Blaine Gabbert, as well.
And if you're talking to Bucs fans in Tampa Bay, Corey, they're saying right now we need defense. Yeah. We need that defensive stud that's going to actually make this team competitive last year, because if Arians, let's just say Arians gets Winston right, then we're talking about it being the defense that will really be key for this team next year. And who do you take? So who do you take in that number 5 spot?
Well, we've been talking about Devin White, but again, if you want a potential game wrecker, you got to look to see if Josh Allen is there, don't you? I mean, because he's a guy with 17 sacks at Kentucky last year.
Yeah, no, you do. And, they're at a pick where a little bit's going to be dictated for them, right? So they're going to, if Quinnen Williams is taken early, then, a Josh Allen and a Devin White are going to be there. If somebody goes early on Devin White, Quinnen Williams and Josh Allen will be there. So they're going to have their picks of really the 3 probable safest picks that are in the NFL draft, right? So
they're in a good spot, is what you're saying.
Great spot, yeah. Bruce Arians is in a great spot. They're going to go defense, like you noted. Todd Bowles as the defensive coordinator. They're going to be in a good spot. Now, the biggest question, like you said, Jameis Winston. What do they do? Only time will tell. But Bruce Arians has history. He knows what he's doing. He'll give it his best shot. But yeah, they're in a great spot in this draft.
Let me ask you this: because of the defensive depth in this draft, if there's that team who wants that quarterback, do the Bucs trade out of that number 5 spot?
Well, I think it depends.
There's so much depth down maybe into the teams of the draft.
It's a really good question. I think it depends on who the draft partner is, how far they're willing to go down.
Right.
Look, the Bucs are more than one player away, so I think that's an important consideration as well. But they could say the Bengals decide it's time to turn the page and they want to make sure they get their guy. I mean, he could be. Denver, if they really want Drew Lock, like I think that they should, may be a trading partner for them at 5. And suddenly at 10, you're still looking to find yourself in a position to get a Rashawn Gary, to get potentially a Montez Sweat. So I agree with JB. I think they can add more draft capital and still get the kind of player that they need. They could also get another inside linebacker in Devin Bush from Michigan as well.
Yep, absolutely. Devin Bush, and that's a great point right there because they can absolutely go after that. And it's all about, what are their other needs in the draft, right? So if they're looking and saying, well, depth is good on the defensive line, front 7, we can go and get somebody after that. If they need, say, a wide receiver, somebody to help Jameis Winston, there are wide receivers to be had in the 2nd and 3rd round. So they're using their full draft board to say, all right, these are the 40 guys that are probably on the board who we can go after. Now how do we maximize the picks, maximize a trade to still get a game-changing player in the 1st round and then add a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round pick as well?
I just looked at the 7 mock drafts on NFL.com. Yeah. 6 of the 7 have the Tampa Bay Bucs taking Devin White out of LSU.
It's almost a foregone conclusion. It's almost as certain as Kyler going number 1 and Bosa going number 2.
Which means it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
Right. That's how it always happens, right?
Yeah.
But I guess the number 3 and the 4 picks are the ones that could really send this draft into a frenzy.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you're right. Like, it's 3 and 4 because, you look at Kyler, you look at Bosa, take them off the board, and then just where do you fit them? We all know the 4 players, essentially who it's going to be, but where are the fits? And then look at the Oakland Raiders. What did John Gruden...
Supposedly they're going to surprise everybody.
Exactly. And Mike Mayock, it's his first draft as a general manager, right? So
is it Mayock's draft or is it Gruden's draft?
It's Gruden's draft.
There we
it's
go.
John
That's
Gruden's draft.
And his draft history is not great.
No.
So and look, I'm going to go ahead and say I expect the Raiders to trade up to 1 to get Kyler Murray.
It could happen. I would love to see a bidding war between John Gruden and his brother Jay.
Oh, well, that wouldn't be Jay. He'd be dealing with Daniel Snyder.
True.
I can't. People are already done with Derek Carr. That ship has sailed. If you're John Gruden,
I don't think a lot of people are done with Derek Carr. I think John Gruden is done with Derek Carr, and that's what's important. And Carr would give them some capital because why wouldn't the New York Giants trade?
Oh, absolutely.
Derek Carr?
And think about that. See, you two bring up a great point. You look at not only the draft, but look at Derek Carr and look at Josh Rosen. Like, these are players that are already on teams, but they could have a huge effect on the draft where these teams go. Say the Giants do it, now they're not drafting for a quarterback anymore.
And the Giants have 2 first-round picks, so they have great potential to swap, 17 for one of those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that Derek Carr has shown that he can be a legitimate quarterback in this league. While Josh Rosen, the jury's still out on him, and I get the Arizona Cardinals wanting to take Kyler Murray number 1 overall. I just don't. Would the Raiders actually move into that position? I'm looking up the age here. Derek Carr is still just 28 years old. As far as quarterbacks go, it's young. It's really young.
And we're talking about Tampa Bay here for the next 5 more minutes. They've got a new coach, and Jameis is a big question. Yeah. Could they go quarterback at 5? He likes quarterbacks who will grip it and rip it. Drew Lock is one of those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, could we see the potential of Drew Lock going to Tampa and surprising everybody?
You could. I mean, look at it, say, one, Bruce Arians is going to do what Bruce Arians wants to do. And two, if you're a new coach, especially somebody like him who has the experience, he probably has, a pretty big leeway. He can do just about whatever he wants. So if he says, all right, I'm going to take the quarterback, it's probably a good risk for him.
Well, and Tampa, you're from Tampa, JB.
Yep.
I don't think moving on from Jameis is going to break the fan base's heart.
Okay, so I run a lot of Facebook Lives for WFLA, the official Bucs station in Tampa. You could say that Jameis hasn't really won over the fan base. I think that would be putting it lightly. Tampa Bay is desperate for a winner right now, but I think that the writing has been on the wall since the Bruce Arians signing that Arians is going to try to fix Jameis. And I think that even among the most skeptical Bucs fans, they want to see the Arians-Winston experiment play out. So I'm not ruling out a quarterback at 5, but I think it would be the biggest shock of draft night.
Yeah, and you're going to miss out on a really great player, if you do skip out on that.
Well, but you do, but how many times do you get to pick in the top 5?
True.
Because if you pick in the top 5 too many times, guess what? You're not the one making the pick anymore.
Great point.
And so, and also, like you said, you've got a new head coach. New head coaches like their guys. There's a reason we're talking about Kyler Murray to Arizona at number 1, even though they just drafted one. There's a reason we're talking about Kyler Murray to Oakland, even though they've got Derek Carr. Because new coaches like their guys. They've got a new coach. Now, if they don't like any of these quarterbacks, maybe they're a trade partner for Josh Rosen or for Derek Carr.
I think the Bucs are one of those teams that are a prime candidate to draft a quarterback in the later rounds. The name escapes me, with the kid out of Duke.
Daniel Jones, but he's not going to go in the later rounds. He's going to go in the first round.
Or
So
maybe
maybe
trade down.
Maybe like a Will Greer in the second round or
right.
something.
Right.
Just trade down. Or I'm sorry, I didn't mean the kid from Duke. Apologies. I meant the kid from Penn State.
Oh,
the kid with the
McSorley?
great makeup.
Yeah,
Just a backup quarterback. That
he seems more like a safety to me.
I know.
He's kind. All right, he's small.
No, he's a
Big kid.
physical player.
Yeah.
But somebody that maybe people could say, all right, if Jameis doesn't work out, let's give this kid a shot in week 14, 15, 16, because that's really what it's going to come down to. If the Bucs season goes like it did last year, people are going to move on from Jameis, and they're going to want to see a glimpse of the future.
I think the one thing with him, with Bruce Arians, is that he doesn't waste a lot of time. If he sees Jameis by week 5, week 6, he's going to move on however they have to do it.
Right, but who do
after
you
the
move
draft.
on to?
Well, he's
That's a
got
good point.
Blaine Gabbert, who he had in Arizona. There's
Yep.
a reason they brought him in.
Yep.
People, and I'm just speaking for the folks in Tampa Bay, and if you're joining us on WFLA.com, you're not really excited about Blaine Gabbert.
Well, no, I
being
mean, we
your
had him here
quarterback.
last year, and he is extremely limited.
Yep.
But he's a known commodity for the head coach, and he's not the future. But like you're saying, at week 5 or 6, if he's just given up on Jameis, he could just hand the ball to Blaine the rest of the way, and then they pick in the top 5 again, and they go and they get their guy.
But wrapping up the Bucs, I think it's pretty fair to say that the Bucs are in one of those really interesting
Yeah, they
positions in the draft where if you're those teams picking 6 through 10, that pick at number 5 could be the most pivotal as far as how the rest of the round goes.
Well, they're going to get a really good player, as Alan said, or they're going to get more picks.
Yep.
And I just want to tag on here real quickly. We expect them to get the best defensive player they can, Devin White, Ed Oliver, one of those guys. But in round 2, I would expect them to probably go safety at this point and add one of those guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Makes sense.
Next team up, who's on deck here, JB?
Well, we before we welcome in our audience in upstate New York,
Okay.
we got about a couple of minutes here before that alert goes out. Alan, let's get your perspective as to the top 3 picks. That was our featured topic of the day. Who do you think goes 1, 2, 3?
First off, Kyler Murray, I think makes too much sense. Second,
Do you think he goes to Arizona?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I think, everything that Arizona's done with bringing in Cliff Kingsbury, I mean, they didn't bring him in for anything else than quarterback and offense, right? And if Kyler's his guy, what do you
make of the he doesn't like to watch film?
I don't like that.
I mean, because we had a guy
Yeah.
here in Nashville who didn't like to watch film, and that didn't go over real well.
No, it usually doesn't. If we've seen anything, people in the NFL that succeed, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady's are just players and
They're
coaches.
nerds.
They are very much nerds.
Yeah.
Very much nerds. Number 2, I think the player is going to be Bosa. It just makes too much sense. Unless, watch out for the 49ers if they make a deal to ship out
I think they
Solomon
would like
Thomas.
to trade out.
Yep.
I think they would like to trade out of that spot, too.
Yeah, absolutely. If they could get some leverage for it, for it, they could really work something nice. But if they have to pick, Bosa's going to be the guy. And then third off, I'm going to say Quinnen Williams, but it could be any one of the four that we talked about: Quinnen, Devin White, Josh Allen. All these guys are really going to be playmakers on the defensive side of the ball.
I'm hearing Allen's name slide a little bit. I don't think out of the top 10, but sliding a little bit. I think he gets punished by being a 4-year guy.
Probably. Yeah, honestly, and how weird is that, right?
Yeah.
Like, not only punished for being a 4-year guy, but think about all, the 2 months leading up to the draft. Every player is, fallen down, gone up, except for Quinnen Williams and Josh Allen. They've been the most consistent, not talked about, safest players. And it's like, all right, we're going to do this on the final day right before it.
All right, well, let's turn the page and go to upstate New York. Let's go to the Buffalo Bills. All right, Buffalo Bills fans, your team went 6-10 last year, third in the AFC East, but you are loaded with draft picks. Listen to this: 9th overall in round 1, 8th overall in round 2. Then you got 1 in the 3rd, 2 in the 4th, 2 in the 5th, 1 in the 6th, and 2 in the 7th. They have plenty of draft capital if they want to move up and get something else, or if they just want to stock their roster. The Buffalo Bills are in a really good spot. They have had an extremely busy offseason, from trying to add Antonio Brown to, in fact, adding players like Cole Beasley, Frank Gore, John Brown, Tyler Kroft, the Tomb Raider from Cincinnati, Mitch Morris, the center from the Kansas City Chiefs, Quentin Spain, the guard from the Tennessee Titans, and most recently TJ Yeldon, the running back from the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the only real big loss they've got is tight end Charles Clay that I can see. So it has not been a horrific set of losses for the Buffalo Bills. They've tried to restack the deck, but you see the graphic there, Alan, the need for speed. They need some weapons for Josh Allen, whether it be on the outside, at wide receiver, or at the tight end position.
Yeah, and that's the biggest question. Is there anybody that's good enough to take and to warrant that high of a pick?
Yes,
right?
there is.
Who do you think?
TJ Hawkinson from Iowa, I think, is a magical pick for the Buffalo Bills at number 9.
And, they're in a beautiful spot for that, in the sense of they've got some rebuilding to do, obviously, but they can do it at multiple positions, right? Yeah. So a tight end, somebody like that can not only block but can catch, they can score touchdowns in the red zone, they can seemingly do it all from right there, on the line. I think it's a great pick.
Noah Fant, his teammates, another good one. Irv Smith from Alabama, another good one. These are guys who are pass-catching tight ends and are developing as blockers. Hawkinson is easily the most devastating blocker at that position in the draft. I got a chance to ask him about that and how that separates him. We don't have that. I apologize. When I put that together, there was a technical glitch. But he was shy about it, Alan. But all you have to do is watch the tape, and what makes T.J. Hawkinson special and what makes him different from these other guys.
Yeah, you're right. And the name of the game is really get weapons for Josh Allen, like you laid out, because the kid has the arm.
Yeah.
And especially having a weapon that's not necessarily a 30, 40, 50 yards down the field, but let this kid get some confidence in his accuracy. I know that was a question coming in, and a little bit of what he dealt with last year. So just let him build a little bit up. Have a tight end that he likes, and let this thing roll, because the Bills aren't far removed from that playoff year. I know it seems that way, but it was only a couple years ago. They can find themselves back in the AFC East here pretty soon.
Well, look, they added John Brown and Cole Beasley on the outside. I don't think that's going to strike fear into the other defenses in the AFC East. They're serviceable players.
Yeah.
And I think Cole Beasley fills that slot need. They need a big target on the outside. I think Zay Jones led them in receptions last year, 56 for 652 yards. I think he's a complementary piece, but I don't think he's the piece.
NFL drafts that we've been looking at, mock drafts, about a third of them, 30 to 40% of them, have T.J. Hawkinson going to the Buffalo Bills at number 9. A couple of names that have popped up in mock drafts, Jonah Williams, and then Noah Fant, the other tight end as well.
Yeah, and that's not surprising. And Jonah Williams is a name that's catching fire, so not surprising. Some things go hand in hand, and the Buffalo Bills and offensive linemen are one of them.
Definitely. Especially Alabama offensive linemen, right? So, no, but I think it makes sense. I think you laid it out perfect. I think Hawkinson's the guy. It makes too much sense. It fits in an absolute need that the team has to have. And if they can score points, it can hold off deficiencies other sides of the ball, right? So I think that pick makes all the sense in the world.
Look, since the Music City Miracle, it has not been a good time in Buffalo.
No.
They have had some rough years. And you know what? They appear to be swinging for the fences this offseason. I'm going to give you a swing for the fences guy at number 9.
There you go.
DK Metcalf.
Ooh.
What? that's a shock pick.
Yeah.
Is a potential shock player.
Yeah.
Josh Allen can throw the ball 80 yards. That's a guy who can run 80 yards and go and get it. What are your thoughts on that?
You know what? I like it. He's obviously a downfield threat. The guy, looks the part in every sense of the word. And if you're looking for a pass-catching wide receiver that can help a quarterback out, that's your type of guy right there. So I think it's all about, what is the need and what's the best available player. And if they look and say, we need a weapon, let's go get a weapon, DK Metcalf might be your guy.
And we're talking about the need for speed, right? We were talking a little bit about DK Metcalf the last couple of days, about how his speed can be a little bit deceptive, right? I mean,
his change of direction is not great.
Right.
He's got to get that. He's got to get it moving.
But when it comes to flying down the field, I mean, talk about a potential major threat for the Bills' offense.
As they say, when in doubt, throw a 9 route. So, I mean, that's your guy right there.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you want to throw a 9 route and you can throw it 80 yards, maybe the best guy is the opposite of DK Metcalf, and that's Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen any mocks that have him as high as 9, but if you want to out-throw the defense, you need somebody who can outrun the defense, and I think this is the one guy who can really do it.
Absolutely. This is a guy who has all of the speed, that game-changing speed. I know there were some questions about a Liz Frank injury on his foot. Everything seems to be that he is great,
Yep.
Good to go. And, it's really going to be how high is he picked. There's a lot that think he's going to be around the 19 area with the Tennessee Titans, somewhere around there. But, again, if this is your, if you're looking for weapons for the offense for Josh Allen, this is a guy to look at.
Well, and they could trade down potentially and get him if somebody wants to get into the top 10. So there would be the potential, for that. And then we saw the offensive line selection with Jonah Williams, also a possibility. So the Buffalo Bills, they're in a pretty good spot, but if they don't add a weapon on offense, I think it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I think so too. And the interesting part about Marquise Brown would be losing out on Antonio Brown and then drafting his cousin, Marquise Brown, right?
I just don't know how much a 166-pound guy is going to like playing in the snow and
it's going to be
10
tough.
degrees. That would certainly be difficult for the little guy. I got a chance to meet him yesterday, and he's engaging. I said, I'm sure you've gotten asked by everybody about your size. I said, how do you respond to it? He says, watch the tape. If you got questions, ask him. I'm right here.
Yeah.
And his numbers and everything bear it out. Look, you said he's Antonio's cousin. There's a lot of that same swagger there, and he looks like a really exciting player. So if we do expect them to take a weapon with the first overall pick, which is 9th overall, they pick 8th in the second round. Then they're in position to go with the best edge, or really maybe the best offensive lineman there, because we've been saying all day it's a good big man draft.
Yeah, it is. Then it's going to be all about what do teams do. Essentially, pick 20 through 32, right? Like who tries to trade back, who tries to to jump out, and who's are there any runs in the draft, right? Is there a run late, on wide receivers? Is there a run, on offensive linemen? So they have options. There's ways to go. Is Garrett Bradbury a guy that ends in the into the first round, or does he fall quick to the second round? Right? Like he could go either
Somebody
way.
always falls, and while I think Garrett Bradbury won't fall, somebody always falls. It always happens. What if we've seen the Titans go all in kind of this offseason trying to help their quarterback out? What if that's what the Buffalo Bills want to do? I mean, because you could potentially see them go T.J. Hawkinson in the first round, and then they're picking 40th overall. N'Keal Harry, Akeem Butler, one of those guys could be there. They could add both those pieces in the first 40 picks.
Oh, absolutely. And I think a lot of teams are going to look at the wide receiver position and say, don't go high on it. There's
good depth.
Better value. Better value and depth is to be found in the second and third round. So N'Keal Harry would be a perfect fit for somebody of what they're trying to do. So it would make sense. If there's any position or any side of the ball where you're going to go all in, let it be offense.
Now, we've talked here a lot about Akeem Butler and N'Keal Harry later in the first, early in the second. Who are give me 3 of the guys after those guys the teams need to look for in rounds 2 and 3?
Well, that's a good question, right? Like, then you get into guys, those 2 right there. Then you get into round 3. Look at a local guy. Look at a guy like Jalen Hurd, right?
Yeah.
Like people are looking 3rd to 4th round, but this is
huge potential.
Huge potential. This is a guy that could be anywhere from, he could play obviously the running back position, which he did earlier in school, even playing the wide receiver position. And, he's got questions in terms of somebody like DK Metcalf, who could even line up like a tight end, and play positions like that. So
when he transferred to Baylor, there was the question, was he going to be a wide receiver or was he going to be a tight end? Because he's 6'5", 225 pounds, and either you gain weight or he could lose a little weight. I mean, he's played wide receiver 1 year. He caught 60 passes for over 900 yards.
Yeah.
And he's just learning the position.
Absolutely, just learning it. So there's so much growth, and he's got the big size. Look at Vanderbilt, quarterback, Joe Juwan Williams.
Juwan Williams.
Yep.
Yeah, his name is catching fire here. I think he was viewed as a round 3. I think it'd be possible to see him go in round 2 now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that guy's going to go high. I think the Patriots are going to at least take a look, to see where he's going to be at. And then the running back out of Memphis, Darrell Henderson, I believe that's his name. This is a running back who could be, battle Josh Jacobs for the first, running back taken, or find himself, early to mid to late second round. So he could be all over, but he's going to be an excellent player in the league.
All right, well, the banner has beaten me to it. It's time to go to our last team, the Seattle Seahawks. Alan, I think last year Seattle was as well of a coach team as there was in the National Football League. It was supposed to be a rebuilding year. All they did was go 10-6, second in the NFC West. They reinvented their offense, kind of recreated what it was when they went to the Super Bowl, emphasized the run, and didn't make Russell Wilson throw for 350 yards. And they were a much better team because of it. They've got the 21st pick in the first round. Then they've got picks in rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5. They just traded away Frank Clark. They haven't made a lot of additions in free agency, but they traded away Frank Clark, who's a very good edge rusher. So to me, as they go into this draft, the big key is how do you replace Frank Clark?
Yeah, it's a great question. They're definitely going to look, at the edge at, a front seven position. But, the Seahawks are a team that they have needs almost anywhere. I doubt that they would go maybe offensive line, anything like that, but they could. You never know what Pete Carroll's going to do, but you're right. They were the only team in the NFL last year that had more run plays than pass plays. The only team in the NFL that did it. And you're right. That new offensive style is all about the run. So, it makes sense that they might go to replace Frank Clark immediately for somebody much cheaper. But they could do almost anything. That team is a wild card every single time they get in the draft.
Well, look, I mean, they're picking 21st. Like we said, somebody's going to slide.
Yep.
And so I think Rashawn Gary, Montez Sweat could be there, Cleveland Farrell. I think one of those guys, Brian Burns from Florida State, one of those 4 guys could legitimately be there at 21. And the question is, do they want to pull the trigger? Gary's a guy whose production hasn't always matched the freakish athleticism. So he could be a real value pick for them at 21.
Yeah, he could. I think that Montez Sweat would be the guy if he falls that far, with the heart condition and everything, because the Seahawks like taking guys that have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, right? Something to prove. If he's there, I think that would be the guy. But you're right, Rashawn Gary out of Michigan, if he falls that far, Seattle would certainly be interested in his services and what he could do. They could go either right there.
Yeah, and let's be realistic. One of the reasons that they became a running team last year is they didn't have a lot of wide receivers.
No.
Paul Richardson left, I think, got way overpaid by the Washington Redskins.
Yep.
And then Doug Baldwin was injured much of the year and trying to come back. So I think wide receivers should certainly be in play for the Seattle Seahawks at 21.
Oh, gosh, absolutely. I mean, that team is so different than 4 years ago of the Seahawks that we think of on both sides of the ball, on offense and, the entire Legion of Boom is pretty much gone, right? So, wide receiver is definitely a position of need. Somebody, if you're going to pay Russell Wilson that much money, he's got to throw the ball to somebody.
You got to give him somebody to throw to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's if I'm a Seahawks fan, it's been years of this now. I mean, Doug Baldwin is a very capable threat for the Seattle Seahawks, but how about DK Metcalf? I mean, could DK Metcalf, any chance that he falls to number 21 overall?
And look, DK Metcalf, you can pick holes in DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
I mean, if you couldn't pick holes in him with what he did at the Combine, everybody would be talking about him as a top 5 pick, but they're not. And I think that tells you something.
Yeah, it does. And I think, you could pick holes in just about anybody outside of probably the top 15. Mm-hmm. But there are certain things that he does well. And, with Seattle, somebody like that, Russell Wilson, he can hide a lot of your deficiencies. So if they see something that they like, especially, a deep downfield threat that he can bring, Russell Wilson can hit that pass over and over.
It's funny, I'm looking at NFL.com, and there's 7 mock drafts, and every single one of them is Rashawn Gary, Montez Sweat, and Brian Burns, all the defensive ends. Another guy I'll throw in there is Cleveland Farrell, who's dropping a little bit because I think he's viewed as not an elite athlete. But what Farrell is extremely versatile at 6'4", 264 pounds. And he was emphasizing that, J.B., at the NFL Scouting Combine. And we asked him about his versatility and the value he brings at the next level.
just feel like, my versatility is something that is very, very important when I feel like, you talk about my game. I feel like that has always given me an edge as far as, giving me a benefit on the field. And not only just my versatility as a player, I can play defensive end. I played some defensive tackle this year, 3 technique. I've also played dropping the coverage outside linebacker. But not only just doing those things, but I feel like I've done them at a consistently a high level.
So maybe Farrell doesn't have the explosiveness of Montez Sweat, not the freakish athletic ability of a Rashawn Gary, but at 21, what he could be is the safest pick at the edge.
Yeah, and you look at Pete Carroll overall of how this Seahawks team is built. He likes guys that can just play football. They can get out there and play football. He doesn't have to play one specific style of anything. I mean, look what they did, with Shaquem and Shaquille Barrett, right? Like, they are not afraid. If you could play the game, they can find a place for you.
All right, and last up with Seattle, what I want to bring up is the Legion of Boom is gone. So legitimately, they could go safety or corner, and they've got one in their backyard in Byron Murphy. I think those things can also be considered.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, anybody local. They would certainly look at the Washington Star. They could look really anywhere.
Greedy Williams from LSU as well.
Yeah, I mean, they could go almost anywhere, and that's how versatile that this team can be, but the needs that they have are almost the same thing.
All right, so if you're the Seattle Seahawks and you're on the clock, and most of these players we're talking about, let's just say they're available, who are you tabbing at number 21?
Montez Sweat. If he's available, that's my guy.
All right, Montez Sweat's off the board. Who do you go with next?
Good question. I might go Clelin Ferrell.
Yeah.
I might go with him. Yeah, that would be a perfect fit. He seems like a Seahawks guy.
Yeah, I think Farrell's going to be a guy who drops.
Yeah.
And so I think he could certainly be. I'm not rooting against him. Seems like a great guy, and he's a very good college player. I think most of the comps with him have been former Titan Derek Morgan, and I think that's probably about right. He's a guy who can put his hand in the dirt. He's also a guy who can stand up, and he's probably going to bring you about 6 to 8 sacks a season.
And don't forget, guys, that the Seahawks have the number 29 pick in the first round, too. So they could attack one need with that first pick, and then depending on what falls, things can get interesting with the number 29 pick, too.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And the interesting thing is, you look at the Seahawks, I think, before this draft, 5 out of the last 6 or so, they haven't had a first-round pick. They're not used to having this. They usually trade out already, so they're going to have some fun in the first round.
Yeah, I did my research before the D Brown trade, the Frank Clark trade,
yeah.
and they got that extra pick. It certainly changes things for them in their ability to move up, but also to plug 2 things immediately. They could go edge, wide receiver, bang, bang, and have things taken care of.
And one of the mock drafts that I'm looking at right here has Rashawn Gary going number 21 overall, and then number 29 being N'Keal Harry, who probably, probably makes a lot of sense there at number 29, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's another one here with Jerry Tillery, the defensive tackle from Notre Dame. Oh, wow. And there's one with, I just saw Joanne Williams make an appearance in the first round on a mock draft. This was a guy who was 3rd round until like a week ago. But yeah,
he's moved up a lot.
He has. When you've got 2 picks in the first round, you've got all sorts of flexibility. And the Seattle Seahawks, they won 10 games last year, and it's scary to think that they could, if they nail these 2, they could be that much better.
They could. And you look at, when Pete Carroll, really took over the Seattle Seahawks and they had immediate success, the reason is because they drafted so well and they managed their cap through the draft. So they know what they're doing. When they have picks, they can usually hit on them.
One of the safety names that's coming up is Jonathan Abram from Mississippi State. By the way, Mississippi State with Jeffrey Simmons and Montez Sweat and Jonathan Abram, how did they not win like 12 games last year?
I know, you're exactly right. Like, you look at Clemson, and everybody talks about the defensive line players. Like, how was Mississippi State, not doing that same thing? But they had a much better season, so it kind of makes sense to see these guys in the draft.
I'll tell you what, if I'm a Seahawk fan, I love the thought of one of those edge guys at 21 and N'Keal Harry at 29. That would give me a lot to be excited about headed into 2019.
Yeah, 2 guys that can immediately start for your team, get out there and play, and make a difference.
All right, Alan Bell, he is from 24/7 Sports. If you want to follow him on Twitter, where do they go?
Alan Bell, 247.
And you're always one of my favorite follows because if you want to be caught up on everything that happens in the NFL, Alan is all over it, tweeting it, retweeting it, and you can literally get caught up just by following his stream. So he's a very valuable addition to your Twitter stream. Alan, we've got just a couple minutes here left, and I want to ask you what you expect tonight in round 1 overall.
What I expect is the unexpected, because I think once Kyler Murray goes, it's all hands on deck, because no one really knows what's going to happen. But there's a lot of talented teams, and there's a lot of teams that might want to trade back. And if the value and pick is right, teams could come up. So I don't think anybody really has a clue of where a lot of players are going to go. So I think it's going to be a draft where you literally have to watch every single pick and stay tuned of what's going on in between.
JB, I think the quarterbacks throw this thing into a tizzy. I really do.
It really does.
I think the needs for certain teams, whether it be Miami, Denver, the New York Giants, the Washington Redskins, certainly. The Arizona and Oakland may not need one, but they're going to draft one, it looks like. I think it's just going to get wild out there.
The panic trade is inevitable, right? I mean, to get a guy like Dwayne Haskins or a guy like Drew Lock, maybe move up into the top 12, top 10 picks to get that quarterback you really want and make your fan base super happy. So you guys see this ticker here on the bottom of your screen. It's got all the picks, of course, for the first round. I programmed that, and I'm telling you right now, I think that by this time tomorrow when we do our final stream for the week, I think it's going to be mayhem, because I think I'm just going to have to type in over and over again, traded pick, traded pick. Because Alan, what you're saying, I think that there is going to be a significant amount of mayhem with some trades going on tonight. The NFL Draft being the ultimate reality TV show, and I think we're going to see that tonight.
When you've got Daniel Snyder and John Gruden's name involved, it's like pushing the nuclear button, man. It's all just going to blow up.
It totally is. Anything can happen, and if it does happen, that means that round second, third, fourth, fifth, it's going to be great throughout the entire draft process.
All right. Well, Alan Bell, we really want to we appreciate you being here today. Enjoy the draft. I know it's going to be a busy time for you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, JB.
We're getting close, Cory.
Yeah, day 3 in the books, and we're about 6 hours away from that first pick. And I'll tell you what, it's going to get real in the Music City.
Let's go one more time to that downtown shot of Nashville, and we're starting to see that. I was actually down there just last night. I know where people are standing with all the honky tonks down there. Everyone's getting really, really excited.
You even ate hot chicken yesterday.
I did, man. I had hot chicken for the very first time. My first.
Will you get it for a second time? I think that's the bigger question.
I think so,
okay.
But not tonight. Not tonight. I think I need to be able to feel my taste buds if I'm going to be interviewing the Bucs pick at number 5.
Well, who do you want that interview to be with tonight?
Oh, man, who do I want it to be? I mean, I just want it to be somebody that Bucs fans are going to be happy with.
Well, if they don't, they messed it up, because they should get a really good player.
I really think it's going to be Devin White. I really do. I think that guy just makes so much sense. Yeah. They have such a need at linebacker, and he just, I think, fits in perfectly with what the Bucs are trying to do. So I anticipate interviewing Devin White from LSU tonight after the Bucs make their selection. But hey, listen, we were just talking about it. Anything could happen. It could be mayhem. The Bucs could trade down. It could be Ed Oliver. It could be anybody. I mean, really anybody. Maybe Queen Williams falls.
Yeah.
I mean, really. What about you with the Titans? I want to put you on the spot with the Titans.
I think there's a lot of areas they can go. They can take the best edge rusher they can. They could take a guy like Hollywood Brown to transform their offense. But I think the guy that I'm circling is Christian Wilkins from Clemson. If he is still on the board at number 19, he is absolutely a John Robinson kind of guy. You pair him up with Jarrell Casey, as I was talking about with Will Compton, and I think he could really do some damage. But I'll tell you what, if a talent like Montez Sweat slides, that might be too much for them to pass up on. And I'll just throw a wild card out there. They got the draft in their own backyard. This team may want to make a splash.
And move up.
Now, they only had 4 picks last year.
Right.
So I think that really hamstrings their ability to deal this year. They need some numbers as well. So they're a potential trade down team as well. But there could be that emphasis, we need to make a splash in the national spotlight. So we'll see. I don't think that's the way the Titans operate, but being the NFL draft, you never say never. We'll be right back here tomorrow to break down what happened in round 1 and start looking ahead to rounds 2.
Get ready, everybody. It's almost here.
It's the draft in Music City. We'll see you tomorrow.